This is wilderness, key of C. I don't know where I've been. I don't know where I've been, but that's okay.
Unconsciousness, the materialist theories do not account well. And he says, according to him, that phi theory, that basically he says that we can, just like physicists always add new building blocks. Like they're so basic that you cannot explain anything past that. Right? And based on those building blocks, they apply their theories. They build the theories on those basic blocks. So he says a new basic block is needed, which is he proposes consciousness. And now we can take it in two ways. One is panpsychism, which means everything has a degree of consciousness. Everything. Every quantum particle that creates atoms and molecules, every quantum particle has some basic degree of consciousness. And another...
Even if it's not a living thing.
Even unliving thing. Everything has, but a some basic form of self-awareness.
He was saying go ahead.
Like what I like like the understanding is also that if
these the other way. So one is
everything is consciousness, and the other one?
That was the panpsychism thing, and the other one was just that you can add consciousness as one building block, I think. So one is that you add consciousness as one of the building blocks, and the other one is that you not just add it, but you just say everything has it.
Okay, I got it. Sorry.
Yeah, and also he didn't come to a certain conclusion about his idea of consciousness, because mostly he quoted what scientists, biologists, physicists try to actually build on what is already existed as a definition of the idea behind consciousness. And then again, but what I think that the whole thing is, from what I've already read or something like that, I also think that it based on like what some scientists in the past believe, that we are living replicators of something that has already existed, that we as humans are occupying those replicators, and whatever those past living stuff that have lived have left, and left us with every individual with that connection of whoever existed in those times, and reflects on us today as the living replicators of those living things that have ever lived, which we base our belief in our consciences and our behavior on the very idea that, well, not a very idea, but with the connection that the founders of those replicators have lived and died and left behind, which we adopt and live on as humans. Well, that is to my minimum understanding of the whole thing. Probably there is a huge solution to what consciousness is about.
Are you talking about cellular memory of our ancestors? Because our ancestors had this and this, and we'll have cellular memory.
Actually, it doesn't have to be with our ancestors. It's even like those objects or whatever it is that lived in the past. It doesn't have to be our ancestors. We only know that we have certain genetic connections with our ancestors because of what science says. But it's not actually that. It's about science. It's about the fundamental core of who we are as consciousness oriented beings. We that just like you said. But I get to a certain point where I was thinking probably it has only to do with the every living thing, which has a consciousness. But, well, there is this other thing that space, even time, also has that sort of,
Time is physical, doesn't really exist.
you know. So, well, yeah, I don't know if someone has anything to say on what I just. And so, out of that, I think it somehow, some way, it's true that most of our conscious living actually replicates from all these objects that it could be whatever it is, which we don't have a definite idea about, but it could be true because it could be that in the process of our evolution, or maybe in that process of evolution, we have somehow, some way adopted that connection with those in the past. And well,
Why do you connect that to some beings in the past?
why do you connect that?
To some kind of beings in the past?
Yeah, because that is why we do what we do today. We are replicating their way of behavior. Because the whole idea of consciousness is actually, like he said, is a fundamental. Even though he called that a crazy idea of his, which is somehow true, that it is the fundamental of who we are. He said consciousness is a fundamental.
Yes, but
And yeah,
why should we replicate things from the past? Like consciousness.
why should we replicate that?
Like it's an awareness that we have.
It's not our action. It's not our control of that. We have no control of that. But actually, it just has a replicating effect on us today. So that is why science term that we as the replicators of those objects, because there are certain things that we do that they did. So many things, not certain things, like the way we do things, our behavior, our thought, our social connection, what we saw, what we value, how we reason, is all compacted into
But
one
that's not
big.
what he's talking about.
I'm trying to add to what he is saying to connect to what I'm saying actually, because there's one reason, there's one idea that he gave two ideas on consciousness. He said one is, both ideas though, he called it his personal crazy idea.
Not his personal, just some crazy ideas.
Some just crazy idea, not his personal. Okay then. Well, but even though it's not his idea, but it's still crazy, but it makes a lot of sense. Because if you put that into certain perspective, you will come to a conclusion that what he actually said is not a really crazy idea, you might call it, because I know he said that out of uncertainties, that because scientists somehow, somewhere will come out with certain theory or hypothesis and disagree or maybe somehow rebuke what he addressed on, or what he thought it is the fundamental core of our consciousness. So those replicators that I'm talking about, because if you look at our pattern of behavior as humans today, it might be that back in those ancestors, our ancestors, there might be some ancestor who actually have a photocopy of you as individual that you're living today. Maybe that has an effect, that has an attribution of your way of behavior, of your thought, of your values, of your beliefs. And so, but whether or not it's true, I believe in one thing, that we are the replicators of those objects that existed in the past. And that has a a great effect on how our pattern behavior exhibits.
It has a great
And
effect, but for sure, like our ancestors, our culture, the way we play chess, or the way we drive cars, the way we solve problems, the way we interact with people, everything, he calls all of these emergent properties. Like properties that can emerge, just like a traffic jam has emergent properties. Like nobody created traffic jams. At some point, with the development of road networks and everything, there was traffic, and then there was this thing called traffic jam, and then the system itself started creating ways to solve those traffic jams by creating new roads or new traffic rules, etc., just to solve the whole thing. So a lot of things about our society or about our consciousness, we can definitely reduce them to being these emergent properties. You know, like there was a problem, then we created
Like unforeseen circumstances that emerges along.
Yes, like so there are a lot of things that emerge, but even that does not explain that awareness that I have in the present. Like, you know, when you're aware of something, you're aware that you're aware.
Yeah, you're
in the
aware.
present moment.
Yeah.
Right here and right now, you're aware of that. In the present moment. So, in the present moment you feel, in the present moment you see, in the present moment you have the awareness of something. Even when you...
And it's always, and there's one irony is that it's always the present moment. It's like we always wait for the future, which we all do. We always wait for the future, and we always wait for, or maybe anticipate something that is going to come out in the future, which, as a matter of fact, it happens in that moment that we begin to plot that thought inside us. So at the end of it all, it is always a matter of now. And I mean, because the near future is going to be now. It's always now. So as a result, that future, that certain future that we always anticipate, doesn't necessarily exist in no way, because it is always now. It is always now. You go home, it's now. You are now here. The next moment you are out there, and it's always now. So it is actually hard to not really hard, but sort of complicated to come up with a conclusive definition of the idea of consciousness.
Yeah.
And
so he says, like, if everything is conscious, he proposed this phi ratio. And it means just how much information can you process.
yeah.
And the more higher it gets...
And even the information, that he mentioned, he also said that, yes, all this information keep coming, and we keep, processing it within us, and we're still not sure the quantity of information that we'll be able to actually process. So to make it simpler and easier, mathematicians actually put that into equation, the whole informational processing system, try to put it into equation to come up with a certain figure or a certain definite definition of that, which he called fire or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. What was it? What was that word?
Phi, P-H-I. I think it's a Greek letter, but I cut it off before you actually got to the mathematical equation.
Yes, because that tells you of how much that quantity of information that
it's not just about the information, but it's about the ability of the thing to process the information.
Yes, but even the ability of the system to process the information is not. That tells you of how vast
or the amount of information that
of
can be
information
processed.
or consciousness level we all have as individuals. And so as a result of that, scientists, especially mathematicians, who always use numbers, try to put that into equation and kind of create generate an answer, and a simpler or easier answer to that can make it faster and consumable for
Yeah. Well,
humans.
just about
Actually.
information processing, I have a little bit of problem with that because computers can process a lot of information. So basically, we have
And even that,
we
there's
have
an
to
issue
see,
on
we
that.
have to see just what does that person who came up with this phi ratio and what does he mean by information processing? What is his definition about that? And how does he explain it?
Well, on that good question, Angel, we're out of time. We switched keys, I can't do it.
If ever you have to stop by the car and just swing the phone, that's okay. It's one that has to get out of it.
What happened? Why are we doing another key? What happened?
We switched.
We're not.
Yeah, we switched keys.
No, we didn't, Nathan.
Yeah. How does the song start? I mean, you started playing G in there.
Where?
Everywhere.
It's like G all over the place. G, 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 G. Sounds like a C with the G.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay, but I don't want to play it in G.
Okay.
I want to play
Your
it.
fucking song. Can you tell me how to play?
I don't remember how it goes.
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there you go.
Why don't we move on to another song? It's good. We chose. I've put a circle around that song as my personal choice for one of the songs Ethan does. If he gets more than 2 circles, that means everybody says yes,
Man.
right?
Yeah.
How about this one?
Is it on the list?
Yeah, it is. Let's do this one.
Although that
this
song
one.
was on the list, and that's a winner, dude. So
That
it's,
is on the
it's
list.
okay if it's not. No, before that song we just did wasn't on the list, so I shouldn't be so picky.
It's one of my 3 or 4 songs.